IGN just dropped a huge announcement article for the MTG X Final Fantasy collaboration. 4 precons with 3 color commanders in them. I wanted to go through each commander today as we don't have the deck list, but just the leader for them. Because we don't have the deck list, I also wanted to provide 2 to 3 cards for each commander that could work really well with it just at face value, just to help you to get brewing. The Great Sept symbol, a really interesting price tag for the product as well, which I want to touch on at the end of the video, and more to come tomorrow on MTG Weekly stream. I think it's about time that we just hop into the commanders itself. Cloud X Soldier is a 4/4 legendary creature human soldier mercenary that costs 5 mana, 2 colorless, red, green, and white for a haste creature that says when Cloud enters, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to it. Then whenever Cloud attacks, draw a card for each equipped attacking creature you control. Then if Cloud has a power 7 or greater, create 2 treasure tokens. You want to make it so you are drawing as many cards as possible and getting your equipment out, and that means attacking multiple times. So obviously a card like Godo Bandit Warlord is going to be an auto include in here. Not only are you tutoring for a card, but you're getting it out onto the battlefield, which when you find equipment tutors in white, something like Stoneforge Mystic, you find that a lot of them just tutor to hand, and it's great if you can just shortcut them and get it out onto the battlefield. But Godo also doubles up, giving you multiple combat triggers. So this is a great way if you have some synergies with this to untap some things and get in multiple attacks and ramp out to have a big second main phase, because those treasures that you create, yes, you can use them in combat, maybe for some type of response or protection spell, but usually you probably want to use them to, again, ramp out to some type of big play in your second main. Now, when it comes to making those treasures, you also want to look at something like Zorn. Now, you could go with the easy include of like Academy Manufacturer, but I think in the equipment deck, yes, you can make a lot of tokens, but generally you probably just want to be making a couple more treasures as well. For something like Zorn, that's going to be a great include to not only your treasure commanders across, but in some type of like equipment treasure hybrid like this, it's a great way to then play out future equipment and also pay for their equip costs should they become more expensive versus attaching to a legendary or not. Notably, you want to make sure cards like Brunor Battlehammer are also in your deck, making it so your equip costs are 0, because Cloud allows you to attach equipment onto him for free. You also want to make sure your other creatures that are attacking are also able to get equipped. So again, there are some equipment that costs cheaper or more expensive based on the typing of the creature that you're attaching it to. So just making it 0, it just makes it so you don't have to think about things like this, especially when you're playing stuff like Sigarda's Aid probably alongside of all of this. You're playing the regular equipment package, but you also have access to green. Now, I'm purposely leaving out the green stuff because I want to see how they support this commander in green once the list comes out, and then we can get a full gauge on how we want to build this moving forward. Tidus, Yuna's Guardian, comes out of the Counter Blitz Commander Precon, green, white, and blue for a 3/3 legendary creature human warrior. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may move a counter from target creature you control onto a second target creature you control. Now, it has an ability Cheer. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control with counters on them deal combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and proliferate. Do this only once each turn. On a base level, one of the first cards I'm thinking of is manipulating counters with Luminous Broodmoth, white, white, and 2 for a 3/4 creature insect. Whenever a creature you control without flying dies, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter on it. So not only is this a card that's going to provide you with a little bit of recursion in colors that are going to do really well with flickering, but also provide you with the counter, noticing that Tidus's ability uses not only just +1/+1 counters, but any type of counter. So you're going to be able to bounce around anything like flying counters, trample counters, whatever it might be, onto your various creatures to get them in and over combat. But noticing also the proliferate aspect of things, you could get real evil with like infect and stuff, so I will mention that briefly, but I don't want to be promoting too much infect because I think a lot of you might have a bit of a negative opinion on that. But let me know if you did build this like a soft Atraxa type of deck, what is the best infect card to put into something like this so you can like move counters around? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section down below. I don't want to promote it, but I know I kind of want to build it like an infect deck. Don't hate me. The Scions and Spellcraft Commander deck is helmed by Y'shtola Knights Blessed, 1 colorless, white, blue, and black for a 2/4 legendary creature cat warlock. With Vigilance, it says at the beginning of each end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you draw a card. Now, whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, Y'shtola deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. Now, some of the key parts about this card are not only the fact that it says if any player lost 4 life, then, you know, this turn you draw a card. That's a great way to incentivize some of the kind of life loss card draw that you get at a base level out of black. So at the beginning of each end step, if you lost that much life, that's great. You can gain a little bit of extra card draw. But then whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, you then get to deal like functionally 6 damage and gain 2 life. You have to imagine in a 4-player pod, you're dealing 2 damage to each of your opponents, 6 damage, you gain a little bit of life. And then at that point, that's going to automatically kind of help you enable that. Now notice it's if a player lost 4 or more, so it's not like if 4 or more life was lost altogether throughout the turn. So you're going to have to do that a couple times, but you can imagine how that can get really easy with a little bit of like spell reduction, some spell slinging out of blue. The beginning of each end step part of Y'shtola is actually a trigger that I immediately want to be looking to abuse with something like Strionic Resonator. So after you get your life loss effects going and it's beyond you and you're dealing damage to your opponent, then you also want to make sure that you're able to copy that ability to draw more cards and get value. Because look, you are playing blue, you are playing black, chances are you're going to be able to get the cards that you want and draw into what you need. But who's mad at a little bit of extra card draw? Resources are great. Finally, I really like cards like Coveted Prize, black and 4 for a sorcery. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. So it's a large non-creature spell that you could potentially reduce a lot to be a lot cheaper, but then will still trigger the Y'shtola so that you can get like that trigger to get your opponents to lose some life. Then you search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. If you have a full party, you may cast a spell with converted mana cost 4 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. So this is a great way to just cheat something out. You could build this like some type of like D&D style deck, but also what you're looking to do with similar to cards like this is find big non like creature spells with high CMCs that do get reduced. Magic Mirror is another one that I'm thinking of off the top of my head, albeit that is a one-time cost. So if there are spells out there that you're able to recur, cast multiple times, maybe something like Rebound, and you're able to cast it like from your graveyard over and over and over again, those are the type of cards that you're looking to abuse in a deck like this. Rival Trance is the last commander deck helmed by Terra, Herald of Hope, red, white, and black for a 3/3 legendary creature human wizard warrior. Trance, at the beginning of each combat on your turn, mill 2 cards. Terra gains flying until the end of turn. Whenever Terra deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 colorless mana, 2 generic I should say specifically. When you do, return target creature card with power 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Now, the name of the game with this commander is just cheating out big dumb things. Obviously, you're going to be playing reanimation effects and entomb effects to put stuff into your graveyard, but I'm thinking about the cards that you're bringing back specifically. Now, it's not about converted mana costs, it's actually about power, which is actually a really interesting way that we can kind of manipulate some of the bigger things that we can bring back. At level 1, I'm thinking something like Bedlam Reveler that, you know, when it enters, discard your hand and draw 3 cards. So great, you're going to be able to take cards that are stuck in your hand, put them into your graveyard and draw 3 fresh cards. That's great on a base level. Now, another card that I'm thinking about that can interact with your opponent is something like Meteor Golem. It's a 7 converted mana cost card, but it's a 3/3, and when this creature enters, destroy target online permanent and opponent controls. Fantastic, now you're interacting with your opponent. Now, if you want to level up just a bit more, Crick, Son of Yawgmoth is actually a 2/2. I don't know how many times this actually comes up. Again, I'm not playing this in like super high level kind of pods or anything, so I don't know when this 2/2 actually kind of matters, except for in a deck like this, which is crazy because this card, lifelink for each black in a cost, you may pay 2 life other than that, so kind of turning your spells Phyrexian, but then when you cast a black spell, put a 1/1 counter on them as well. So getting bigger on the field, getting your black spells to cost less. It's like a really funny tutor card that like is insanely powerful, but like for some reason is a 2/2 as a 7 cost. So that is just like the first thing I'm thinking of, finding like really random low cost stuff, cheating it out. Let me know in the comment section down below, what are some other ones that you can cheat out? I think just like in these colors, you have some really cool options, especially in like red and black. So I'd be really interested to see what those options are. You have some fun ones in white as well, but like, I think colorless red and black is probably where you're like focusing on your kind of bringing back with your reanimation. But then, you know, when it comes to white, you're probably looking for your removal and your interaction. Now, I want to take a moment to actually go through the article briefly. There's some fun information out here for all you Final Fantasy nerds out there that I think is going to be important. The whole thing's going to be linked down below if you wanted to go through it in your own time. But Final Fantasy Commander decks revealed, featuring Cloud, Tidus, and more, an exclusive first look thanks to IGN here. Now, even if you don't play Magic, you probably come across the various collabs, Fallout, Tomb Raider, and Assassin's Creed. Today, they get an exclusive first look, and then, you know, kind of providing the image gallery here. Set to launch in June, Magic's Final Fantasy crossover will be a fully draftable standard legal accompanied by 4 pre-constructed decks from the Commander decks. Now, again, this is that first implementation of standard legal cards. We will be getting these in Pioneer, getting this in Modern, not only just in Legacy and Commander, but the Arena client will be getting this as well. And so this is going to be a really interesting time for the first implementation of stuff like this, with new Final Fantasy card art and brand new card design with Magic's most popular format, Commander, in mind. While Commander precons are always themed around certain characters, colors, and strategies, the twist with these is that each one is built around a single Final Fantasy game. Final Fantasy 6, 7, 10, and 14. So this has led to a little bit of contention for a lot of people. Obviously, we're missing 8 in there. 14 being kind of the online focused one. Final Fantasy games are so rich with flavor, beloved characters, and unique settings that choosing a single game as a theme provided more than enough material to design a full deck of cards around. Says senior game designer Daniel Holt, who is commander lead for this set. Approaching each deck as a single game also provided the opportunity to dive deep into the lore for each, capturing even more beloved moments from across the game's storyline that we may not have been able to achieve otherwise. Now, the team decided that these 4 Final Fantasy games, based on a balance of what they wanted for each gameplay, how the deck would kind of play out, but also just like characters and a lot of people recognizing the different games themselves and what they know and love in each deck. So instead of like spreading everything out across 4 different decks and maybe the whole set, keeping it focused is really interesting because it's not only just about the characters that you love, but also recognizing the secondaries and the locations, recognizing some of the art off the lands, I think is a great choice. Holt says that while Final Fantasy 7 and 14 were clear picks, 6 and 10 took a bit more discussion to arrive at, but were chosen partially because they were favorites among the team. A little bit of bias there, it's okay for all of you missing your other games there. Our core approach for Final Fantasy was to capture the original PS1 narrative using the remake and Rebirth's modern aesthetics to push the fidelity of each character design, story, and moment, memorable location to the next level. So that's really interesting there. That's good to note. So got a couple more things to kind of note down here. And then, kind of talking about some of the characters, Shadowbringer's review here, and then also talking about, the different characters themselves, as well as how they tried to bring them to life in each one. Now, Magic's last but not least, Commander might be all about your leader, but RPGs are often about your party as a whole, and WotC won't leave the supporting casts of these games behind, which is why I also wanted to bring up like party specifically in my cards. I feel like there is going to be a push towards maybe bringing that back a little bit, or maybe in a changed way to like kind of further work with some of the D&D mechanics. And I kind of want to bring that up in a separate video, but it potentially is the time to get into stuff like that. While I can't talk specifics on who's included in each deck and their abilities just yet, fans can expect to see some of their favorite characters in the 99 of each deck as new legendary creatures and capture in action on exciting spells. Now, it's set to release on June 13th, and if you don't see your personal favorite Final Fantasy game or character here, Holt assures that all 16 of the mainline games will have their moments to shine in the accompanying product. So in the standard legal set, in the draftable environment, you will be getting all the characters that you need, returning in the same territory as Warhammer 40k from 2022. All the 4 commander decks will be available on both regular MSRP $70 and collector's edition, so the foiled out versions at $150, the latter of which will feature 100 of these cards in each deck and a special surge foil treatment. Now, the price itself is a little interesting, and I think that's where I kind of wanted to end off this video. It's like on the expensive side. And I think we kind of just have to expect this from the Universes Beyond deal. I think a lot of money went behind not only getting these for a longer period of time, but you have to remember how long standard is legal for. If these are going to be standard legal sets, these are going to be sets that are going to be around for 3 years. Final Fantasy is going to be around for a hot minute in the Magic like ecosphere. We're going to get that with Spider-Man and like future like Universes Beyond collaborations. And so that's just going to cost more on average. I think Magic is going to, not only is it more expensive now, but I think it's just going to continue to become more expensive. When it comes to Commander, I think one of the big things that a lot of us can work with when it comes to stuff like this is being more open and honest about ourselves when it comes to proxying. We have to be okay with proxies. Me, myself, I have a lot of Commander staples, but I don't have a lot of them either. At this point, I actually recently made a tweet and post about some of the decks that I'm building, some of the decks that I've talked about on the channel, and I've opted to just fully proxy them. I bought the Commanders because I want that card specifically. That's my own choice, but I've opted to just like proxy all of them moving forward. If I upgrade my deck, sure, but I don't want to be buying Commander product like this unless I specifically want to support it, and you shouldn't feel like you have to either. If you want to play with cards like this, you should feel like you can go to a print shop, print out a proxy of this card, see if you want to play with it first, and then if you ultimately don't like it, you don't feel bad about the fact that you brought the product and you're just kind of quote unquote stuck with these cards. Obviously, a lot of these cards are going to become more widely available because they are going to likely be in the standard set, so you're going to have like active ways to play with them, get a hold of them, and try them in different formats. But don't feel like you're stuck in these ways. If you're not a constructed player, you don't have to buy these. You can proxy and try them out. So I think that's going to be the ultimate message I come up with. Not only did we go over some cards, but also just reminding everyone, when it comes to Commander, it is about the gathering, it's about the gameplay. It's not about how expensive your decks are or how good your sleeves are or something like that. It's not about the flex, it's about the game itself. And so proxy your decks, try stuff out like that, and then if you want to kind of build it out from there, sure, that's great. You can make that choice and build out your deck and do what you need to do. I myself, especially when it comes to learning CDH and playing some high power stuff, I will definitely be building some low power stuff based on the brackets as well. I am looking to proxy. And I think based on the prices of this and the direction of a lot of things, where a lot of things are going, a lot of people are going to have their own opinions about this set. But in general, when it comes to tackling prices, unless you specifically want to support your LGS, you specifically want to go after a commander deck that's with your favorite Final Fantasy game, and you just want to kind of support that and get those cards, that's great. Otherwise, like proxy. Look to proxy. Go to play with your friends, try it out, put it in front of them. I think this will be a really interesting time, as this is the first big set that we're going to be getting that's quote unquote standard legal. It's not going to be the Assassin's Creed or the Lord of the Rings where it's like modern forward. Things will likely be getting more expensive, especially as people see these sets like succeed or not. I see a lot of creators already getting really excited about this, and I think that's going to draw a lot of attention to them. I think a lot of people are going to start getting really frustrated with this. I expect a lot of angry comments in my comments down below, and a lot of people reacting rather negatively, which we'll see what the ultimate like kind of like fall through of that is. But I think when it comes to something like this, it's we can't expect the internet to act normally. I'm generally speaking excited. I want to see where everything kind of goes when it comes to a set like this. I just am more excited for obviously the modern playable stuff and the constructed stuff. I'm excited to see it in those. I'm excited for random combo pieces. Like I always think about decks like the Warhammer 40k decks that had cards like Poxwalkers in them that like randomly just ended up being like really good eternal playable like legacy vintage like dredge staples and all that stuff, combo staples as well based on like how they interact with like free flashback spells. Like cards like this are really important to have in these sets to draw attention, but also not be stuck behind paywalls of these commander decks that were like really hard to implement and took a while on MTGO and may never be in some cases. But look how long it took us to get like Radstorm and stuff like that on MTGO to be able to build out certain like legacy and vintage decks and even just try them out. It's not necessarily tier 1 stuff a lot of the time, but it's just to be able to try this out. So I think the wider implementation is good. Downside is the price, but there's ways that we can go around that and tackle some of this. We don't just need to be angry people about this. We can be normal about it until we see like a concerted pattern, and that's when we speak with our wallets at that point. But let me know what you think about the Final Fantasy collaboration down below. Are you excited? Are you excited for not only the equipment that we're going to get, the spells that we're going to get, the different locations, the art, the set symbol? How do you feel about the Chocobo in there? There's a lot of cool things coming out of this set. I know after this video, I'm going to be sending this article to a friend of mine. His birthday's today, and he's a Final Fantasy nerd through and through, just a JRPG fanboy altogether. So I'm definitely going to be sending this his way. I think you'll love this for a small little additional birthday piece to get him a little happier. But anyway, sound off down below. Let me know what you think about the first big implementation of Universes Beyond in Magic the Gathering.